Hello, my name is Councillor Kwena Moloto, and welcome to the Bring Back Brink Townhall meeting. I'm joined by members of the former mayoral committee on my far left, Offense Matipatela, the former MMC of Human Settlements, obviously on my left, the former executive mayor of the City of Tshwane, Cilliers Brink, my right, Themba Fosi, the former MMC of Utilities, and on the far right, Jackie Ace, the former MMC of Finance. Thank you all for joining us today. I think let's dive right in, and I'll start with you, Celia. They say you must start at the very beginning. You've been involved in council for multiple decades, predating even you becoming mayor. Can you give us an idea of what Tshwane was like from a governance perspective before 2016 when the DA took over?
Thanks very much, Quinn, and thank you very much to the DA and Gauteng for this platform to help communicate with Tshwane residents. I was elected to council in 2011. I was about 23 years old. I didn't know much about local government, but I certainly learnt. And at that stage, and until the 2016 election, the ANC was the dominant party in Tshwane. So we know the policies followed by the ANC, cadre deployment, and so forth. You very much had a fusion of party and state, so that ordinary functionaries of the state, even in positions such as engineering services, technical positions, came to reflect loyalty to the party instead of ability to do the job or concern for communities. Now, this is not speculation. We now know this is reality. After 2016, I had the opportunity to serve on Salim Simanga's mayoral committee. My portfolio was corporate and shared services. And those were really exciting days, because the change had come and there was this massive expectation. You know, there goes the ANC mayor, here comes the DA mayor. But the fact of the matter, Kwena, is that a municipality is not just run by the mayor. It's also run by council. It's in fact two bodies or two decision makers that run council. Now, the mayor has got powers to bring suggestions to council and so forth, to initiate things, to look at the budget. But council has reserved for itself, in terms of the law, certain key decisions: passing of a budget, raising of a long-term loan, appointing the municipal manager, firing the municipal manager, and the same for senior managers that report to the municipal manager. And very often people speak about, oh, the DA is 8 years in charge of Tshwane. It's not quite so simple. You know, from 2016 to 2021, that first term when Solly was elected mayor, in fact, his coalition did not have a majority in the municipal council. And what the ANC and the EFF did was they banded together, they disrupted council meetings. I'll remember this like yesterday, violently disrupted Solly from delivering his State of the City address. They blocked disciplinary action against a municipal manager in the Glad Africa matter. They then broke the quorum of council meetings, inviting the ANC provincial government in Gauteng in to dissolve the city council, and that was absolutely disastrous. It's an important part of the city's history. Before that period of administration, when the city council was dissolved, the city, in fact, had an operating surplus of 200 million on the budget. After the period of administration, when the Constitutional Court kicked out these ANC administrators, including the former mayor of the basket case West Rand municipality, the city had a more than 4 billion rand deficit. So during those crucial months of the COVID-19 lockdown, seven months to be precise, the city was governed by ANC administrators with no supervision by a council on spending, on appointments. Even clearance certificates. You know, when you sell your house, you're meant to transfer ownership. That stuff just didn't happen. So for anyone to say, oh no, it's just been one clear, term of DA mayors and DA government, it's in fact a story of a party that lost power and did everything in its power to prevent the new lot from governing. It's almost as if, the ANC said, if we can't govern Tshwane, then nobody will.
Yeah.
So that's the history. I would like for others also to contribute, Kwena, but what finally gave us a glimmer of hope was in 2021, the parties in the multi-party coalition actually formed a majority. It was a slim majority, but it was the first time that a coalition and a mayor's grouping had a majority to get things done. And unfortunately, this is now what ActionSA has taken a sledgehammer to, and without any clear indication of where to go forward.
So maybe you can then also expand, how did we get here to this point,
Yeah.
where this motion of no confidence was successful, where ActionSA turned its back not only on the multi-party government but also on the residents of Tshwane.
Yeah, so remember I explained how councils work. It's the mayor who's elected by the council, but then council has to make certain key decisions. And in terms of the 2021 coalition agreement that had ActionSA, the DA, the FF Plus, IFP, COPE was still there, ACDP, those parties agreed to follow the provisions of the agreement. And we've got Jackie Asia, who was the joint caucus chairperson, the person that actually managed the technicalities of this contract. And the fact of the matter is that ActionSA did not invoke any provision in that coalition agreement. No grievance, no deadlock breaking mechanism. In fact, they couldn't even tell us the reason at local level why they broke with the coalition. I believe it was Herman Mashaba trying to reinvent his party. They did very badly in the election. And I think that they got a sense that if Tshwane actually works with the DA mayor, if we solve the Hammanskraal water crisis, which we're doing, if we turn around the finances, which we're doing, if we gradually improve service, then the voters of Tshwane, if there's a DA mayor, will not credit ActionSA. Now, they did badly in the general election. I think that prompted Mashaba to announce he's breaking with this coalition even before there was so-called a review process. And the interesting thing now, Kwena, is ActionSA, according to the latest Social Research Foundation poll, is polling at 0.5%, less than half of what they actually got in the election. Now, I don't know how much of that reflects the damage they've done in Tshwane, but if it didn't, I think they're going to poll at 0.2%, quite frankly.
Sure, sounds like the death of ActionSA. Now, Jackie, you were the Joint Caucus chairperson. Mm-hmm. I mean, in the media and on social media especially, ActionSA kept on punting certain narratives that the DA doesn't care about the township, speaking about the finances of the city. Was this ever raised internally in the coalition?
Well, I saw yesterday there was no grievances raised internally, and quite frankly, I think that the ActionSA local caucus was just as surprised as any of us. We had engaged with them, with the local leaders, asking them, your leader is saying certain things in the media, is that true? And the answers we received is no, we're fine in Tshwane. What is the crux of this is Herman Mashaba saying himself that he broke from the coalition to teach the DA a lesson. And he used the lives of 4 million people to do so. And that is the reality that we shouldn't miss.
Sure. Nothing to do with service delivery. No, I must ask, Temba, your MMC of utilities, they mentioned a lot about the DA focusing heavily on the suburbs and neglecting the township. What was your experience in government?
Kwena, that is utter nonsense. The capex, majority of the capex was mainly in the townships to solve the issues of service delivery, obviously improving the lives of our people. One of the biggest projects that I need to underscore is the Rooiwal wastewater treatment plant that, together with the executive mayor, met with the previous minister, Ndate Mahlobo and Kunu, to make sure that these two spheres of government sit down and be able to get into a partnership and have a way forward. And I can proudly tell you that this month end, October, the people of Hammanskraal, first time in 30 years, will have potable water through their own taps. This, to us, is good news because obviously this will cut the over-reliance on water tankers, and as you know, the water tanker mafia that are milking the city dry. That will be able to cut that provision. And further to this would also bring dignity to the people of Hammanskraal. Quite a number of projects that we're currently doing, the JJ substation in Soshanguve, where we're stabilizing the electricity grid there, making sure that the AI sub and the JJ are actually able to provide stable electricity. There's growth in that area. You can imagine that having one substation feeding the whole Soshanguve area, it's something that it's not sustainable. So by bringing in the JJ sub, it adds value. It makes sure that our people are able to have stable electricity. If there's outages, we also can be able to backfeed or even swing the load in both these substations. So there's quite a lot of projects that we've done. The Mamelodi R3, R4 issue, where our people were deprived of water due to a servitude that has been occupied by illegal occupants of those lands. We've managed to make sure that we fence off the area. So there's quite a number of projects in Region 7, where now we've got our own pump station through the work of Ntate Matsabatela, where we've got a pump station that now will be able to push water through to these Twabeni and Nkangala area to make sure that our people have stable water. So that is just nonsense that we're not pushing an agenda of service delivery towards the township areas.
Sure, that's quite a long list of successes. So,
Can I just emphasize something?
yeah,
Tembo's quite right. He's put the position. Our heart is where we spend our money. However, we need more money. And that is why the city's financial recovery is at the heart of us doing better. We need a bigger capital budget. Cape Town's got 11 billion, we've got 2 billion. Why? Because systematically, through all of these interruptions that I have emphasized, the value chain, the income value chain of the city has been broken up. Sometimes by corrupt networks, and other times because of a breakdown of systems and controls and supervision. Anyway, we've got to get that back. We have to fix that so that when folks owe the municipality, they pay. And if they don't pay, we go and cut off the electricity. We deal with billing disputes. That will allow you to actually start balancing your books, paying off arrear Eskom debt, generating savings, getting access to capital markets, because municipalities is just like a household. You've got a bad credit record. You're going to pay a lot in interest rates, and beyond a certain point, you're not going to be able to borrow. So that is why this financial recovery is at the heart of everything we have done, and why it's so fragile in the hands of folks that have no idea what they're doing.
well, I guess Miss Tshwane Atima was largely, behind our financial recovery plan. I heard that they called you Miss Eskom in some
some point,
areas
yes.
because you were just switching off power. Can you just talk us through some of the things you've been doing inside the city as MMC of Finance to turn around the finance?
So Tshwane Atima was seen as a campaign to cut off electricity to those who don't pay, which is quite right, and it is what it should be, because when you consume, you should pay for it, whether it is water or electricity. But the reality is also that there is a lot of people that have racked up debt that is just so high that they'll never be able to pay it. And a big portion of the people in our city is of such a nature that they cannot pay. So Tshwane Atima was not only about cutting off electricity to those who do not pay, but it was also about ensuring that we bring services and finances to those who need to sort out their accounts. And the foundation of Tshwane Atima was take responsibility of your electricity account. If you cannot pay, approach the city and use some of our measurements that we can assist you with, whether it is a payment arrangement, whether it is an application to the affordability committee to have a section of your debt written off, whether it is the poorest of the poor application. But the foundation of it was take responsibility for the debt that you owe the city. However, fixing the tax administration went far beyond that. It also went for us to ensure that we bill correctly, because if we do not bill what we should bill, we cannot collect what we should collect. So it's also about making sure that we bill correctly. That relies on making sure that we meter correctly. So it is very important that we ensure that meter readings aren't done on estimations, because yes, the law allows for estimations, but if you live on a month-to-month salary, and last month your estimations was only 300 Rand less, but this month it's 300 Rand more. In your budget, that is a fundamental amount, and that makes that you get behind in your accounts. So fixing that tax administration is about much more than just cutting off electricity, although that is a very important part of bringing a culture of payment and a culture of taking responsibility of your account.
Sure. I've allowed two MMCs to speak about their successes. Offense, you know, some call you Bob the Builder.
That's in your life. I would say I've also not heard that.
Bob the Builder. Can you just tell us about some of the things you were able to achieve?
The former executive mayor puts it correctly and says you spend your money where your heart is. We spend over 91% of our ISUP grant. And part of the reasons why we could not
Just
spend...
explain what that stands for.
Oh, okay. ISUP is the Informal Settlement Upgrade Development Grant, which is meant to upgrade informal settlements and underdeveloped townships. So what we have spent over 91% of that. The reason why we could not spend 100% is for the obvious reasons of your construction mafias and stoppages of poor performing contractors. But 91% is big. Eh? In fact, it is the highest of all the metros in our province currently right now. So we've been applauded by the Minister of Human Settlement. What has that done for us? We have been able to start a township in Pinasport. We have been able to do water reticulation in Soshanguve MM, Mabopane 1, Harangua 10, and as well as the Rama City area, and as well as the new settlement there by Orchards 101. All of these is in township, and all of these are new settlements, over 10,000 new opportunities for housing opportunities with water and sewer. So this is bringing dignity to people that were not getting dignity. Furthermore, we've even done great. Hey? Part of the things that we said that we want to do is to make sure that what we are seeing is that South Africans cannot afford. They cannot afford to bond houses, and some do not qualify for RDP houses. In fact, what we have also learned as my tenure as MMC is that majority of people in informal settlement pay rent. And most people don't know that. You know, they pay for electricity, illegal connections. They pay for living in a particular shed to whoever they are paying that to. So if people can pay, how do we as government create opportunities for people to be able to pay that little amount, but in a more formal area, in a more secured area, and hence social housing, right? And I said to the executive mayor, when I came in, or when we came in, there was this townland social housing, which literally it was halted. There was nothing happening. And part of the energy that we focused on as this administration was to ensure that we completed. And that gave us 1,200 units of social housing opportunities. This is affordable rental, closer to work opportunities, closer to school, closer to economic activity. So someone who used to live in Soshanguve informal settlement now lives at the CBD of the capital, paying as little as 750. You can imagine that is a life-changing opportunity, and we were looking forward to build more of such opportunities in the north of Pretoria, around the Rosling Industrial, in Silverton, around the Silverton Industrial, because what we're trying to do is to say, how do we dismantle informal settlements? It's by creating these social housing opportunities, these affordable rental opportunities. These are some of the things that we've been able to achieve. The Mamelodi flood victims, we have been able to start what many governments before us have failed to do, that is to move people out of the Nalmafia's hall that has been occupied and people are unable to use it for recreational purposes. We've been able to move them and be able to settle them in a new township that will be known as Pinasport 27. And this has been part of the work that we are doing. So when people say that we were not serving townships or particular black communities, it baffles us. And it goes to show that whatever this was not planned. It was irrational, egotistic, and maybe someone who just woke up and felt, I don't want to work with these people anymore because of, like the EMS said, that maybe electoral decline and other issues. That is why it's important that when we go into coalitions, and maybe even looking into the future, we must start looking at stable coalitions. These huge parties that just mushroom calls of people, or if I may call it, as spaza shops where people can do as they please in those political parties without internal democratic processes. It must signal to the voter that any party that does not have internal democratic processes, that's a red flag. That's a red flag. And how do you expect those people to run a government in a democratic South Africa?
Yeah, I don't know. It's extremely unfortunate. Now, Cilliers, your team has touched on a lot of the successes under your 18 months in government, but maybe you can also just expand.
So as I said earlier, if government wants to play a meaningful developmental role, it must have its books in order. Those who can pay must pay. Those who can't pay must be assisted to make a payment arrangement and to bring consumption within the free basket of services. Very generous free basket of services to the poor. And we were gradually doing that. Ratings Africa said that in 2023, the City of Tshwane showed the best improvement on the scale of financial sustainability of all metros. The best improvement. Improved audit outcome. We submitted our financial statements for 2024 on time this time. There is a great level of assurance of the quality of those financial statements. We expect an unqualified audit on those financial statements. And this shows progress. National Treasury took the unusual step this year of publishing the unaudited financials, which we submitted. Again, if you look at those unaudited financials, better ratios, better indicators on all scales. So slowly but surely, we have done very good work to improve the financial position of the city, which is the basis for improving service delivery. If we get a stupid decision that's made now, a stupid commitment made without calculating whether the city and the residents can afford it, and it causes a cash flow crisis, it might do so much damage that even if we all jump in, we might not be able to solve that without assistance from another sphere of government. We do not want that. We do not want irresponsible people without an understanding or even a love for our city making critical decisions that can place the future of the city at risk.
No, I think that often people forget how easy it is to slip back into absolute chaos. But I think looking forward, what's happened has happened. On Wednesday, we're going into an election to vote for an executive mayor. What conversations are happening behind the scenes in the run-up to this vote for the executive mayor? You're obviously the DA's candidate going in. What do you feel your chances are?
So let me take a step back and tell you what happened before the motion of no confidence. The motion was brought by the ANC, and ActionSA, in June when this motion was first brought, ActionSA said it's opportunistic, it would bring undue political instability. Exactly what we have now. And by the way, those parties went ahead with a motion of no confidence, and they haven't got a plan. Fighting with each other who should have the mayor. Not fighting with each other, what should the government's agenda be? What should the critical priorities be? Who should be the mayor? They can't even figure that out. And that is highly irresponsible. But the national leadership of the DA, Helen Zille and Salim Simanga, our provincial leader in Gauteng, had various engagements with the national leadership of the ANC. And the request there was, even before the motion, hold back the motion. You can always bring the motion again. But holding back the motion to moving it back to October at least would have given the parties some space to say, listen, what's in the best interest of Tshwane? Is it a stability pact? Is it a government of local unity? Instead of plunging the city into chaos and uncertainty and then trying to want to negotiate. So the DA has issued an ultimatum to the ANC to say, listen, there are many places that we can potentially work together in metros. But this Tshwane situation is a deal breaker. So got to fix the Tshwane situation, and that opens the door to cooperation in other places. So you're quite right. I am the candidate. At this very late stage, we don't have an agreement with any of the parties. The ideal would have been the parties in the government of national unity getting together saying, the government of national unity must see the economy growing. The cities are critical to the economy growing. Let us make sure that the cities are well governed, that the cities aren't victim of political instability, that there is clear direction, and there's potentially enough room for agreement. I mean, working together at local level is in theory less complicated than trying to agree on policy differences at national level. So today is Monday, Wednesday is the vote. What is important for the DA to do is to be sure about what our candidate is, what our agenda is, what we will do, and that's what we put on the table. And that is an invitation to other parties to say, let's talk. I've had very constructive engagements with the FF Plus, who were very positive and consequential member, and very loyal member of our coalition. And I'm sure that cooperation can continue. But we don't know yet. Unfortunately, Quena, the parties that went ahead with this motion of no confidence, they didn't have a plan. Heaven knows what's going on there. But we are still open to say, let's find the best situation for Tshwane, the best solution. There are 4 million people. There's a lot of work to be done. We've lost 2 weeks. We've signaled uncertainty to the public. We've signaled instability. Let's fix that. Let's fix that, and let's make sure that this does not happen again until the people can vote in 2026.
Yeah, and I mean these pockets of this political vacuum that seems to consistently be created when a mayor is replaced is causing massive damages. I mean, Timber, maybe you can elaborate. I know the pyramid sub, we already saw opportunists taking advantage of the political vacuum that exists.
Exactly that. You also appreciate that even when I started, we had such a happening, substation getting burning and vandalism. But some of these things are things that you see that this is a sabotage that is done by our own internal guys. It's exactly that. Obviously, administration takes advantage that there is no political principles that are looking at what is happening. Then, obviously, the thugs are taking over the city. It's exactly, and you would. These are ANC allied thugs, because this has been business as usual for as long as I could remember. Now that we are closing the lids, that this is exactly what is happening. It shows that if you don't have a stable government, these are the things that are going to happen into the city. And you need to have a mayor that will be able to have an hawk eye view and be able to run an administration as smooth as what Cilliers has done. And I'm yet to see any leader in that council who has done so much work, more than what Cilliers can be in the near future.
Yeah. Now I know, Cilliers, you've said it publicly. If you're not successful in Wednesday's election, you're staying here until 2026 to fight for residents, and I know that all of us here have made such statements internally. But I think starting maybe from Jack here and moving through, if you are to come back, what's the plan? And if we are to go into opposition, what are you going to do to continue to fight for the residents of Tshwane?
So if we should come back, the plan is to continue to build the tax administration, to also look at things like reforming our customer care so that it's easier to engage the city, easier to work with the city, looking at more checks and balances that we can put into supply chain. We have done a lot of work in that space already, but doing more of that, and then looking at ways that we can bring our debtors book under control. What is very important from a financial perspective is to indicate stability to the markets. And a saving grace through this period was that the DA and our coalition partners have been able to bring in top quality senior managers and a top quality city manager. And should we go into opposition, it's important for us to keep safe and that city manager and his senior managers to ensure that stability stays throughout the period into when we come back into 2026, and then also ensuring that the work that has been done into the financial statements, where we were able to submit it on time, where we were able to show growth and are hopefully going to lead into a clean audit, that work can continue through oversight.
Timber?
Oh, so many projects that I have in my head that would need to have continuity. One being street lights being taken off the grid and be able to push on solar lighting. The establishment of ETT Energy Task Team, the 1,000 megawatts that we want to cut our over-reliance on ESCOM. There's quite a number of projects that I could, the pipe replacement projects that we currently ongoing. You know, we've got asbestos pipe that have lived their lifespan. And there's multitudes of projects that were under my watch, which had interest and which are directly service delivery programs. And unfortunately, if we are not there, EFA, Electricity for All projects, through his grant. So a lot that are coming in, Monavoni, Babadrant, Moikloof, Rua Vesta, Noordwest in Region 4 in Olivenhout. So there's quite a number of projects that were there that we were wanting to push, that will change the trajectory of our city and obviously to better our people's lives. So continuing, if we come back, we will continue on that doing work because we are hands-on. We are fighting this, making sure that service delivery has been meted out to the people that deserve. Illegal connections, that is also the biggest contributor into our losses. We were hands-on, making sure that we distract that market so that we can be able to get our money and be able to push the service delivery. Now, if we are out, you can imagine those tax are coming back into the system, which will be milking the very same industry that we're talking about. But I must say, we'll fight through with Cilliers. If we win, we will be continuing on the stellar work that we've been doing.
Offensive?
Look, infrastructural development. Bob the Builder wants to continue building. We were on the verge of the building of the Boysons Reservoir, Mabopane Reservoir, the Harankua sewer treatment plant there. MMC4C from MMC4C spoke about the Bronco Spread one. What does all of this mean? It means that if we are able to build infrastructure, we are able to move away from contracted services. We are able to move away from temporary toilets. What do you call those toilets? Chemical toilets. We are able to move away from water tankers. And part of what was on the table before we left was the informal settlement management policy, which will be a first in the country. Hey? The first in the country, not even Cape Town has it. So what we were going to be able to do was to have a systematic way in which we develop informal settlements in a manner that we can measure it, one, and be able to account as to why did you choose this informal settlement instead of this informal settlement. Right now, it's just who makes the loudest noise, who throws the stone faster or further, who bends the best tire. Then we go and service those people who stole whose land and the court citing us. So we were in the process of saying we need to have a systematic way in which we respond to all of this. And we were on the verge of taking this to participation. How do we also stop land invasion? How do we have a bylaw that speaks to land invasion? No one else has it. And we were on the verge of doing that, working together with Human Settlement nationally as well as the Development Bank. So unfortunately, we were stopped. But all of these things, it doesn't mean that if we're out of government, we're not going to keep our eye on it. We will be keeping our eye on it, and we will hold whoever will be in charge accountable to ensuring that all of these things are done. Because at the end of the day, it's about service to the people of Tshwane, nothing else. It's not about us, it's not about Cilliers Brink. Whether we say back Brink, the main thing is to say, let's bring back stability into the city of Tshwane and ensure that we have a government that works for all its people, not what these people are saying. Because if these people at Cilliers were serious about working for the people of Tshwane, they would know who's going to be their mayor. Yes. They would know. So they went in short without really thinking. So there's no interest of the people of Tshwane right now, but we are saying that we are here to serve the people of Tshwane. Whether we go back in on Wednesday or we come back in 2026, we will still be here to work for the people of Tshwane. It's not about us, but it's about where our children are growing up.
Thanks, Cilliers. The same question to you.
Absolutely. Continue to improve the finances, build up our capital budget, which allows us to borrow more for infrastructure, to save more for infrastructure. Better infrastructure means fewer electricity outages, fewer water outages, more independence from Eskom, getting those power stations in the hands of IPPs, getting the airport in the hands of a private operator that could put capital and can expand that area, that can draw investment and jobs to the city, gradually improving service delivery, lighting up our streets, 270,000 street lights in the city of Tshwane. We want as many of those on solar lights. We're working on a team of dedicated folks looking at public lighting. As we know, everybody complains about public lighting. It's a major problem for us. Those were the steps we've taken. Those are the steps that we'll continue with. And we'll talk to other parties to say, how does your agenda differ? How can we reconcile it and bring it on board? If we have to go into opposition, we're going to make sure that they don't screw up Hammanskraal water.
Yep.
Me and this guy have worked way too hard for the water tanker mafia to sabotage that thing so they can keep on pushing those trucks. Second thing is the disciplinary action taken against the Rooiwal 5, the officials involved in giving that tender to Edwin Sodi and his friends, the blacklisting of that consortium for not performing on that tender. And finally, we're not here to protect officials who behave badly. We're not going to do that. However, we are here to protect officials against improper political interference. Nobody should say, I'm a DA cadre or I'm an ANC cadre. You're there to do your bloody work. And we will make sure that the professionals are treated fairly. The last thing the city can afford is for competent professionals who don't want to turn a blind eye to corruption or don't want to declare their political allegiance being removed in favor of party agents.
Sure. Now, I think, from now, well, we'll see what happens on Wednesday. The aim is going to have to be 2026. What would be your call to action for the residents of Tshwane in the run-up to this 2026 election?
So it's incredibly important to understand whether we go into opposition or whether we have some kind of a settlement to stay in government to continue with our agenda, the people will have a reckoning in 2026. The voters of Tshwane, including those who gave ActionSA 19 seats in the city council, which they went and they sold out, brought a well-functioning coalition to a fall. Those people deserve a say. The people who looked at this, didn't vote in 2021, and have seen what certain political parties are up to, will have an opportunity to have their say in 2026. So my call to action is support a team of people who you can hear are competent. I don't have to tell him what to say. I don't have to tell you what to say, although you were never in government. I don't need to tell her what to say. There's no earpiece here. We know because we've mastered our briefs. We are passionate about the people and moving the city forward. So if you believe what we believe, if you feel as passionately, join up to the DA, become a DA member, make sure that you're registered to vote, make sure that your family is registered to vote. 2026 is the next local government election. It is less than 2 years away. That is the opportunity for us to make a difference, to bring stability so that we can have a mayor and a council that can actually have enough time to implement an agenda and to be accountable.
Cilliers, thank you so much. To the team, thank you so much. I think it's going to be a very busy few days, and I really hope, as you said, I'm not in government, but I hope come Wednesday you guys are back. And thank you to everyone that tuned in at home. Please do go and sign our petition in the run-up to the motion or the vote for the executive mayor on Wednesday. Show that you too back Brink. And I know all of us will be voting to bring back Brink on Wednesday. Thank you very much.